Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura Franco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time. And today we're here to celebrate one of our new books, The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 5, you guys. I am so excited about this. Like some of you who have been following Brave Healer Productions know that this fifth book in the series is part of an incredible journey that started for me on March 20th of 2020. And everyone's going to have their before and after story, right? But I woke up that day dreaming about doing a book collaboration with my healer friends. And I literally got up out of bed, walked to the kitchen, opened up the laptop, typed a note in a little Facebook group that I run for a class that I teach. And I said, the world needs to understand how to heal at home right now. Who wants to write a chapter for this book? And 48 hours later, I had 24 yeses. And 5 weeks after that, we birthed that book onto Amazon. Like, what? You know, it was a small miracle. And each of the next 3 Amazon best-selling volumes have been out changing the world ever since. So I actually brought show and tell today, guys. I couldn't help myself. There's number 1. We have number 2, the purple lady. And then we have orange butterfly woman. And we have the 4th book. These beautiful artists are helping us also share their artwork. Mandy McMahon did volume 2 for us. She's on Instagram, you guys. I'd love to give her the quick shout out because she has done the cover of volume 5, which I don't have yet to show you, but I will soon. And we just want to thank Mandy for helping us get these brave words out into the world in such a beautiful, beautiful way. But today I have some of the author experts with me, and I really can't wait to get into this discussion today. Hey, you guys, how's it going?
Awesome.
Good. I'm
Really good.
glad. I'm so happy that you're here. And each of you has been here with me before. So I will say thank you to all of you for coming back to write a chapter in another book and to really help me with this mission that I have. James Kawanui is a native Hawaiian healer whose passion and commitment is to help people live positive, productive, pain-free lives. I have Melissa Jolly Graves. She's a minister, seer, author, and business owner who has 24 healing modalities under her belt. And Dr. Erika Putnam, owner of The Bend in Whitefish, Montana, is a holistic chiropractor, registered yoga instructor, and author who believes that health is about the person as a whole rather than a diagnosed condition. So I have badasses in the Zoom room today, y'all, and they're going to talk a little bit about their chapter and their tools, and I have some pretty cool questions to ask them. So James, you're starting our party out today. Tell us about the amazing chapter you wrote.
Yeah, the chapter I wrote was about a period in my life growing up, and the name of the chapter is What I Say to Myself, Transforming Negative Self-Talk into Self-Confidence. And it was about, I told a story about my stepfather. His name is Harold, and about how Harold got into my head when I was a child, and how even though when I left home, he was still inside of my head telling me all the things that I couldn't do or wasn't able to do in my life. And it wasn't until I was, and I hope people don't have to wait till they get this long, but I was into my 40s before I finally realized that all the anger and everything else that I've been carrying around for him all those years had only been affecting me. And that's kind of where I went, well, that's really stupid. So started on this different path. And one of the things that I talk about in the chapter is about, and I give this as homework to a lot of my clients, is do you really listen to how you talk to yourself? The words that you use to describe yourself, your world, in your life. And most people, when they start looking at that, are shocked because of what they're saying. And so that negative self-talk, I don't have to have anybody else give me shit. I can give myself enough shit. And that's the place where I feel like if we can stop that, and as we learn to stop that, we become more powerful people.
I was talking about the ninja moves in mindset in another interview, and we were talking about curiosity that time. But I actually believe that this is, and I'm going to put it in the ninja mindset move category, because if you can manage to master the self-talk, you can manifest anything you want. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and not just me, Melissa and Erika would say the same thing. When we get to that place, when we understand that, then our lives really change. Because there's another part that I didn't talk about, but this kind of goes along with it, with the idea of that. I stopped becoming a victim, and I stopped looking at my life as a victim. And that's when I start going, okay, everything that I've done, and again, not in the chapter, but again, part of this, everything that I've done and all the choices I made are my choices. And so I have to, in some ways, be willing to take responsibility for that. Even the self-talk.
Well, and the words, whether they are thinking that is going on silently, or they are spoken, or even written, all of the ways, that's a vibration.
Yep.
And when, talk about that. Why is that important?
Well, it's a really interesting thing. I saw something a couple of years ago that made me really think, and it just said, why do you think they call it spelling? because each word is a spell. And so if you're casting spells with just the words that you're using, then would you not be more careful of the spells that you're casting, or of the things that you're saying? Because that's how much power words have. And we don't realize the effect that has on our lives.
So perfect. That one gave me goosebumps, because if people really wake up to what's possible there, they're going to pay attention. Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
Melissa, talk to me about your amazing chapter.
All right. So my chapter is chapter 2, Warriors Should Not Be Kept in Dungeons, Breaking Out Your Inner Child. And I have to thank Laura for helping me with the title, because she rejected my first one, which was awesome, because this one made so much more sense. She said, you could do better, and I know it. So my chapter is about the time when and many times really, but this was one particular story where I went to go fight these demons. I was going to do these exorcisms, and I was in this training to do exorcisms and working on myself and whatnot. And went in to go fight my inner demons, and found out that I never had anything to fight. If I would have just loved myself or loved the people around me, then I wouldn't have these demons, because our demons are a compilation of all of our horrible, icky feelings that we don't want to face. So we shove them down and we build these walls up. And all we're doing is building these dungeons for our inner child, for our inner adult and our inner self, for everything that we've done wrong that we want to shut our world out. We make these demons, and the story is just talking about how we have the freedom and the choice to get rid of them at any point in time, and I just want to kind of say too, there's so many people out there full of the demons, and we think that they're humans, and we have to recognize that their soul is so hurt that they can't be present in the moment anymore.
It's so important to help people understand this and speak it in a way that they really have even a tiniest spark of recognition for themselves, right? So talk about that transformation, like when you figure that piece out. I think people can get lost in that and actually get stuck. Like, what do you do then?
Scream.
I love
Scream,
that.
yell, cry, get it out. Honor those feelings. Why we're feeling like that is because we make more room for our pain than we do our joy. So if we can find a transformation through the tears, that's an actual physical transformation. It's allowing ourselves to scream, like James said, and like I spoke about in the chapter, get out of that victim mentality and start to realize that that every single darkness you went through was a place of light that you could have held if you were to learn the lessons. And when you learn the lessons, you're now a warrior and you're no longer that victim. And it brings you out of depression almost immediately.
I'm so glad you said that last word, immediately, because what was on my mind a minute ago was don't forget to tell people it does not have to be a decades-long journey. You can have a moment of waking up in this and everything changes almost overnight, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our thoughts, our words, our spells are our reality. So if I wake up and say I'm a victim or I'm hurt today, that's going to set the tone for my day. Where if I say, you know what, yesterday sucked, but I'm going to rock it today. And every bad thing that happens to me, I'm going to say, awesome, I'm leveling up, because I know that I can't become stronger if I'm not challenged. And so now, and that's what I do in my life. Now all these bad things come and I'm like, oh, bring it, God. We're leveling the heck up, because I know you got lessons in this and they're a hard one, but I'm going to learn it and let's go. It's like college time, let's go.
Oh, I'm going to remember that one. Okay. That's the best. Thank you, Melissa. Erika, tell us about your amazing chapter.
This might have been the hardest chapter I've ever written. It's kind of
Really?
about, yeah, well, it's about relaxing. So,
Okay.
if you're relaxing, you say, lay down and relax, but it really is about changing states. It's about being supportive. It's about restorative yoga. And so as a chiropractor, I'm always having people ask me, what should I do at home? What can I do at home? And what I've learned over time is a lot of times they don't really do what I tell them to do at home. Some do, but if I give them something that's easy, that it's really good for the back, that it's really good for the mind, and I can get them to do that, then I can usually move them into another exercise or another supportive place. So I feel like the chapter is really about self-care. It really is about kind of being supported and getting in the state of mind that will create health and healing and well-being. So hopefully it's a mindset changer, because the benefit of being relaxed and being in a state of calm is so healing that people will even make time for that. It's funny how we don't even make time to relax.
It is funny, isn't it? You're making me think of this experience I had with restorative yoga with a very skilled instructor, where in the middle of it, I'm just laying there because the poses are completely supported. And that's part of what that is total body, mind, soul support, right? And her energy and presence. And then this position that we were in, where I just literally felt like I was being supported in my whole body. And then the tears just came. And all I really needed was to slow down long enough and really be supported like that. Tell me more about that restorative pose and just tell me more about that.
Well, it's also really hard to teach, like you're saying. I feel like to some degree you have to let someone be in their body and in their mind. So if you're chattering the whole time, you're sort of telling them what to think, which sometimes we need to learn what to think. But then I think that there also is a part that's just in the being. So the pose is legs up the wall, where more or less your legs are up the wall, your back is on the floor, your arms are out to the side. So from a physical standpoint, you are opening the chest, you're supporting the low back, you're stretching the hamstrings. But there's also the component of it that, you're opening your heart, you're in a position of vulnerability, you're changing the circulation in the body and lymphatics. So, it's a mind, body, spirit position if you let it be. Other than that, it's just stretching hamstrings against the wall. So I think it in a way helps us figure out, how are we all of those components? Like, can you check into body? Can you check into mind? Can you check into spirit or feeling? However you want to say that. So yeah, it's a really easy pose, but super, super good for you.
Yes, I love that one. Thank you, Erika.
You're welcome.
So you amazing healers, when it comes to healing, most of us understand that we're not here to fix people, that it's more about helping empower people to connect with their own inner healers. So we like to talk about ourselves as guides or facilitators on the journey. Melissa, what's one of the most important ways you empower your clients to be their own healer?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. You rarely stump me. Wow. Okay. If I were to give one advice, the thing that I think works the best is to find something that you're good at and do that for 5 minutes a day. Because I truly feel that when we are with ourselves, and like Erika said, and when we take that moment to do the things that we like, I mean, that even from mind, body, spirit, that's setting out endorphins, that's setting out dopamine, oxytocin, that kind of stuff. But also when we're doing something that feels good to us, we're connected with the universe and we're connected with ourselves. And that's my favorite thing, is just saying, what is it that you like, that if the whole world just went away, what would you do for that 5 minutes, and how can we make that happen? And usually when they start doing that, that's what starts to bring them back. The second thing is appreciation. I would say, if you can't do that, appreciate, because so many times love has failed, people have failed, so many other things have failed, but we can always find something to find that we can appreciate, even if it's a color in the room, even if it's a smell or a touch. When we can get into appreciation, it completely changes our DNA. Dr. Emoto even showed this in his little snowflakes that he made, but it changes us into this beautiful art. And when we learn to appreciate ourselves, then we don't hurt ourselves as much either. So
I love both of those. I had a moment, y'all know I was at a retreat for a few days, and we were in beds that had a pillow that was about that thick. And I woke up that and first morning and with a headache that lasted for 2 days. And the second morning we walked up to the restaurant or the cafeteria there, but there was an observation deck that surrounded the entire place. And I was a little bit bummed out that I had a headache and I would have to do my thing that day and this and that. And, we get in our head about all the things. And then the sun came up behind the Blue Ridge Mountains on this gorgeous, gorgeous, not a cloud in the sky day. And the gratitude I had. And I just, you have to be conscious enough to let that fill you up, right? Because I could have just stood there with a headache and just been like, ugh, but it was just so amazing. So every morning I made sure to walk up the hill and stand on the deck and watch that sun come up. And that alone, you're just making me think about it. It was absolutely spectacular. Appreciation and gratitude are huge energy shifters. So, okay, Erika, what's one of the ways, and in terms, y'all have like a million different ways you empower people. So it's hard for you to answer with just one, right? But what's one of the ways that you think is the most important that you empower your clients?
I ask hard questions, and I expect people to get really honest with themselves. I think that when you can hold people in a place where they can be really honest with themselves, then they're able to take a next step or even see the vision. Sometimes I don't think we spend enough time kind of in wondering or in hope or envisioning what we want for ourselves, especially when it comes to our bodies. We sort of are reactive to them rather than, like you're speaking about going out there on the mountain, you're changing your state, you're changing your chemistry, you're changing your hopefulness, and all of those things can have possibility in you if you sort of think about them first. So I think sometimes when people are just in pain, they just want out of pain, but they don't necessarily say, well, what do you really want? Well, I really want to hike the mountain or pick up my grandkids, or I want to sleep better, so I think giving them some hope, but it's not my hope. They've got to be really honest with themselves about what they hope for themselves. So I think I'm good at holding space for people so that they can find those answers. And I think that's what moves them into a better place.
I absolutely love the question asking piece there. It reminds me of a discussion I had about curiosity, but you being the one to be willing to ask the harder questions. That's, you're all warriors in that sense. You're ready to ask that next hardest question and then hold people accountable. Mm-hmm. Not everybody does that, so yeah, I don't know. I guess I want to ask you how it was for you to step up into that role. Maybe it wasn't always easy.
No, it was really hard. I think because you get a lot of pushback. People they want you to address their pain, right? They don't necessarily want you to ask a bigger question about their health. And so you can't even ask the question unless you think it's possible. So I think a lot of it's, my personal philosophy about health and joy and happiness has to be able to see that for them and hold them as a person to see it for themselves. Like, you deserve to be happy. You deserve to walk upright. You deserve to have the care. You deserve to do the yoga, all of those things. And I think sometimes people just forget. They get on a mission to go to work and be a really good mom and, get accolades or whatever. And they sort of forget about their own happiness, their own joy, their own health. So it was really hard because I got a lot of rejection in that way. So I had to learn how to ask hard questions and be okay if they didn't want to have the answer, but I like planting the seeds. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
Yes, that planting the seeds is important. Yes, that is awesome. Curiosity is everything. Someone told me once that I needed to ask bigger questions of myself, that the questions I was asking myself were keeping me small. So I have a practice now of asking bigger, harder questions, which I absolutely love. I love that practice. Okay, James, your turn on this one. So what's one of those ways you empower your clients?
I think, like Melissa and Erika, is that gentle guidance into taking responsibility for their lives, in that place and not looking at it. I think what happens when we get into that place is that we go into self-judgment and self-criticism and all the negative aspects of it. And yet, I think Melissa said this, we have opportunities where when the opportunity shows itself, can I see the beauty inside of it? Can I see the bigger picture? Can I realize that something is happening in that moment that is allowing me to step beyond myself, And so when I'm working with people, it's that place. But I also wrote something else down too, and it was consistency, because as we continue to with clients and people that we have, patients that we have over and over again, we are consistent in the message and consistent in the way that we hold space for that message. And I think that creates a sense of security for them, and in another way, I wrote something else down. We're modeling that for people. So I can't show somebody or talk to somebody or help them if I'm not actually walking the talk as well. So there's an, and I just kept writing words down, and the other word that came up then was integrity. There's an integrity inside of that. And so the integrity of how I deliver the information, the integrity of how I hold space for that person, and the integrity of the message that we communicate, and I think as practitioners, we all understand that.
I think the consistency is so important. Consistently being accountable to that integrity. They all go together there. When somebody can count on you to show up in that, then I almost think that that's one of the foundational things of being, I know not everyone loves to be called a healer, but I think that is foundational. So I love listening to you talk about that consistency. It's really important. And then doing that for yourself even more so.
It's me showing up to an appointment on time. You know, I had somebody say that to me the other day. Oh my God, you were on time. I said, I'm always on time. There's no integrity inside of that. If I make you wait, this is your time. So it behooves me to show up so that I can be there for you.
Yes. Okay, so I'm hoping I'm not going to stump you all on this one. So you'll have to give yourself take a breath and feel into this question, see what pops up for each of you. But Erika, I'm going to start with you on this next one. So I remember a moment when I experienced a session from someone who practices biodynamic craniosacral therapy. And we had a phone session during COVID. She assured me that it would be the same as when we had been in person in the past, right? And I had had a few sessions with her in person that were phenomenal. So that day, when I was laying in my office on the floor on my yoga mat with my little earbuds talking to her on the phone, that's how I was having my session, right? I realized that day just what was possible in terms of energy medicine and healing. And part of that is me being open to the experience, of course. But we've all of you have had so many different kinds of aha moments as we've journeyed on this healing path. And so I wonder if, Erika, you can think of one of your aha moments where you realized really what was possible for your healing.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, Laura, I'm sitting here, this table, I'm set up on a massage table that a lady does Reiki on, and it's covered in amazing crystals and blankets and things of the nature of the chakras. So I feel like in and of itself, this space is super healing. So environment is one of those things. But specifically, I think what you're asking is some more of a personal question, like how have I experienced healing? And I'll tell you, a couple years ago, I got food poisoning. I got really, really sick, and I had Reiter's syndrome, which is more or less where all my joints got swollen and hot and inflamed, and I had bilateral frozen shoulder. So for a year, I could barely move. I practiced, but I had all this internal pain. You know, you don't go around telling people, oh, this hurts all the time. You just limp. So I adapted. I taught my yoga class, but it was very modified. And I felt like my whole life got modified. But what I did was I meditated every single morning in front of the fire for about 20 to 30 minutes. And if you would have told me that meditation had the power to heal, I would have said no. But I made it a practice. I did it consistently. And all I really tried to do is get to a place of no thought. It wasn't about healing. It wasn't about take this away. It wasn't about blame. It was just about getting to a place of no thought, which in my mind was about vibration. It was about allowing an energy to be present that could make my cells return to normal. And I never did prednisone. I didn't do a lot of things traditional people would be. I took good care of myself, and I consulted with my healer friends, and some medical people, but I took it into my own hands. And that was, I did a lot of stuff, don't get me wrong, but that was the one thing I did consistently, that if you ask me, how did you heal yourself? It would be that and nutrition.
Love that story. And I heard that C word, that consistency word. I think that we practice modalities, or rather we try a modality, a practice, a tool, and we think that one time is supposed to do something. So we give, we say it doesn't work, but really in the consistent practice of it is where the magic is. Mm-hmm. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. Okay, James, what about you? Do you have a moment, a personal story about that for you?
Well, I just wanted to say it's never a one and done thing.
Right.
It does take that commitment. You were asking about that, and I was thinking about ahas, and you're right. We can find a ton, a million ahas. I think the aha was when I first started meditating. There was a point one morning when I was sitting in my meditation, And I always used to see myself caught inside of this vortex. In other words, like I was caught inside of this tornado of energy, right? And everything was just happening around to me, and it was so overwhelming. And this one morning I was in meditation. What happened is I actually dropped into the center of the tornado, and I was calm, and I was watching all the energy around me move. And I went, oh, I want to look at that. And I would hold on to it, and I would look at it, and I would let it go, and it would go back into the vortex. And that was a turning point for me, because I think it was the morning that I learned how to quiet my mind and went, holy shit, it's possible. And it, from that point, it felt like everything kind of cascaded, because a lot of things were happening to me in that, around that time. My ancestors were starting to talk to me. I was starting to meet people. They were starting to tell me about things, and it was all really overwhelming. So learning how to find that quiet space, that quiet space inside of myself was, I think, pivotal to everything else that came after that.
I love that. The morning I learned how to quiet my mind. Briefly tell them where you had been in your career before all of this healing stuff.
Oh my gosh. I'm the oldest of 8, and I left Hawaii when I was really young. But when I turned and went on this different path, I was a corporate executive in a multi-million-dollar a year company, and I ran departments, and I had people that worked for me, and I did all kinds of crazy things. And I literally got a tap on the back of my head from my ancestors, who said, it's time to go home. And it was such a shock, and it was the first time that had ever happened, that I actually walked into my boss's office the next morning. He was the president of the company, and I quit my job. And everything changed then. And that was 21 years ago. I was 42 at the time. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. I just knew I couldn't do that anymore.
Hearing that part of your story never gets old for me. I want people to understand that they can have a transformation like that can completely change their lives for the better. And I just, I love hearing that transformation in you. And I thank you all so much for sharing these particular kinds of stories. Melissa, I know you probably have so many different ones like this, but which one are you going to share today?
Okay, I totally had to get up to share this, because this was my absolute hands down aha moment. So you're actually going to be talking to a crystal while I talk.
Okay.
So I'm in the middle of a barn at this festival that we're running, and we had brought in this artist Umbilical from another country. How he plays is he actually figures out numbers and then like Fibonacci code, and he'll put a tone to each number so you can actually hear the Fibonacci going. And I see this guy, and he's got this crystal in his hand, and he has a light attached to it, and he's dancing. And I'm like, I want to do that. Anyways, my friend's like, you're getting that crystal by the end of the night. Long story, blah, 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 goes on. And this guy comes up and he says, can you hold my crystal? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to dance the crap out of this crystal. So I'm like, grab this crystal. And all of a sudden I went, and like the breath came out of me. This crystal was clear when I got it. Now, when I started playing it, you can see kind of wings. I started using it, and this whole thing transformed. And this angel, I know you guys can't see it very well, but this angel starts coming out of this crystal here and whatnot, completely clear. And I'm just going to town, and I'm like, this is like a lightsaber, because eventually the crystal says, just raise me over your head. And I'm like, what? And, at first I said, oh, let me heal you. You've had so much energy. And that's what started it. And it said, okay, now let me do you. Raise it above your head. And I go, what? And all of a sudden I raise it above my head, and I hear, whoa, just like out of Star Wars kind of thing. And I just start charging energy all over. And then I run up to the sound crew, and I'm like, guys, I got to put this through the speaker system right now. Let me crystallize this speaker system. I'm super amped up. Then I come out, I start doing a healing on this girl. She drops to the floor. She goes full Kundalini. She's jumping like a fish. And just whatever. And all of a sudden, like, I come out of it to somebody shaking me saying, what did you do? And I'm like, what did I do? I didn't do anything. I was just dancing with this crystal. And he goes, no. I was over at the base forest, which was on a 40-acre land, completely opposite from where I was. And he said, I knew you did something. And he came running to me. There were crowds of people just formed around me. And I'm just looking up going, what the heck? And all of them at that moment said, we all saw this angel come into your crystal. And it was Metatron. And I'm like, whatever, cliche, use the archangel kind of things. But every single one of them said Metatron. And the guy that came and shook me out of this said, what happened? I said, oh, your brother gave me this crystal. He said, so you're the one. For 3 years we've been looking, and we heard when it got into the right hands, it would activate. And that was the first time I realized in one moment I could heal up to 40 acres, change the complete chemical compound, change the photons, the everything, and you know, the quarks and everything in this, and bring in something that is metaphysical into a physical world, not only where people could see it, but they could feel it. And that started my whole mission of, I mean, I own my own science lab now where I'm taking thermal images, I'm getting DNA and blood and all of this, showing this is real stuff. This was never fake. Y'all told me it was fake. It was never fake. I can prove it. And I've made several of these throughout the time. So I'm going to have to say that's hands down my most ultimate, because it was amazing. We all just were like, what just happened?
Whoa, I'm so glad I asked that question. Thank you. You guys, for each of our authors today, you're going to want to pop down into the show notes below and click on their websites and take a next step with them, because they're honestly sharing tip of the iceberg of their brilliance today with you. Tip of the iceberg. And so thank you, Melissa, for sharing your story. Erika, James, same, like telling those personal stories. And sometimes you write them, you publish them, you tell them for the very first time. A lot of us have spent lifetimes worth of time not sharing because we're afraid of what someone might think of that story, or not believe us, or think whatever. You guys get the picture. But I think it's about time that we start to open up our minds to what's possible. And so I absolutely love listening to you share these stories. So, okay, so James, you're gonna start us off with this next question, and here goes. Healers learn something about something called the healing crisis. And this is when you're on this healing path, but you're feeling distress, pain, discomfort. It could be mental, emotional, physical, everything combined. But what you're feeling is actually related to the healing. That's why they call it a healing crisis. And awareness is the key to understanding that when you're feeling it. I feel lucky to have had a life dedicated to awareness, but I want to help people who haven't, so they too can benefit. So y'all know I love the awareness topic. James, I'd love it if you'd share what your personal awareness practice looks like day to day, just one of the simple things you do to practice that, so that you can understand when something is a healing crisis, or you should be paying attention to this or listening to this message. What's your practice look like on the day to day?
If people don't have a daily practice or even a meditation or anything that they do to try to set themselves for the day, then there's never going to be stability in their life. That's my personal feeling. So having that practice in the morning, and that is that place of quieting your mind, that place of connecting to yourself. And I talk about self as physical self, because we spend way too much time in our minds. And so can I feel what my body feels like? And then I think we all talked about it in one way or another, and that's this practice of gratitude. I mean, paying attention to the beauty, because the more beauty and, beauty, love, however you want to put it, the more you see, the more you feel, the more you'll see in your life. And so that's foundational for me. It's foundational for me. It's foundational for a lot of the people that I work with, is creating that stable place inside of their life. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes to begin with, at least have that few minutes that can happen.
Gratitude, right? I feel like it's this hot topic that people are skipping over because they've heard it, the word so often. But what I want to add to that is that the vibration of gratitude and love and joy are high. Those are high vibes. And so I love what James is saying about starting your day like that. Why wait? Start it off vibing high. And I also love to end the day like that too.
It's not a concept, it's an experience, right? And so you have to have the experience, and the experience moves through your body. And then it's not even in your mind anymore.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Love it. Melissa, what's a part of your awareness practice look like on the day-to-day?
I guess I'm one of those associational thinkers. So everything that I see purpose for it. I see why it needs to be there. I'm a firm believer, and I'm not to promote, but I'm going to promote a little because I'm going on TED Talks with this speech, is that I've come to the formulation that God is generator, organizer, destroyer. And coming to that conclusion in my life really changed a lot, because now I realize that all energy needs to generate, and then it's going to become really chaotic for a bit. So we need to organize that. And then after we get it organized and it's done what it needs to do, it's time to destroy it and to move on. And I see that throughout all of life. So just knowing that there's a continuous flow of energies, and especially through your transformation of spirituality, that you're going to go through these high highs and these low lows. And spirituality is a teeter-totter. I think the only crisis that I would see is not acknowledging it, I think, is the biggest crisis. But when we can acknowledge that, things are going to happen to us, then when they do happen to us, it's not so bad.
I love that. Thank you. And I'm going to totally brag about the fact that you're going to be doing the TEDx talk. Would you tell us, please, what's up with that?
Yeah, so we actually just formulated, and yeah, thank you for giving me a push, because it definitely had a lot to do with these books and how I'm rewriting it. But yeah, it's the concept of let's take God's out of the religious box and put it into everything. But when we put it into everything, then we're going to start to see it as an energy. And rather than giving it a definite name and giving it limitations with that name, if we can start to take it and look at it and as an energy, as a focus point of everything, whether it's an idea, a family, a book, energy, there's generator to all of that. And then once again, we come down to, we need that organization. So the organization of everything, who's going to be on our team, who's not, what energy is going to be here, how are we going to raise our kid, whatever it is. And then it's time to kind of have that come to an end. And so I'm really looking to take that energy out of a box and show that the creator is within all of us. And it comes down to a frequency and an energy pattern or an algorithm that can be seen throughout everything. And when we can start to see that, then maybe we can start to make up similarities and come up with similarities rather than the conflicts that people are looking at when it comes to my religion versus your religion. And I'm going to say it out loud, and I'm going to say it the rest of my life. Religion is personal experience by every definition of the Bible, of the dictionaries. Religion is the personal belief in a paranormal, a God, a higher self, or something paranormal. And cults are any group of religious people that come together to make rules and to share their beliefs. And so I'm actually going to be coming out with the world to say, hey, we need to maybe start looking at some of these churches that are saying our belief systems are bad because they're kind of doing the same thing. So let's just see God as a whole concept and religion as a personal experience, rather than pointing fingers of who's better, who's not, because God doesn't like ego. And if you got ego, you're not with God. Sorry.
I'm excited for you and all of the different things that are happening for you. I can't wait to see all of that come to fruition.
And thanks for being part of that.
Yes, my total pleasure. Erika, you are going to close out our little party today. So what about you? What's the awareness practice look like on your day-to-day?
I'm a writer, so I write almost every morning. That's how I ground. That's how I search my soul. That's how I figure out answers to questions. And I most of the time land on something. So I'll go through some kind of writing and then I'll end up and it will be an aha. And the aha is what I take with me throughout the day. So it might be like, how do I let love move through me today? And that all day long, when stuff comes up, I go, just move love through you. Or like yesterday, I was thinking a lot about what's just right, like not your right, not my right, what's right for me, and really landing on the right being satisfaction more than righteous, right? So I tend to write a lot. I do daily water, I do daily vitamins, I do daily walks with the dogs. So I do mostly things that settle me down and shift me into an awareness of happiness or satisfaction. So a lot of it's relationship, I think, how I'm in relationship with myself or my patients or this place. I think that's, to me, it's really a lot of grounding.
I love that you're inviting me to also share mine, which is a lot of the times I think that the day-to-day for me is about getting my awareness back into my current moment, out of the future thinking, out of the past thinking, and just right back here breathing. And that present moment is all we got, right? So the practice for me is to stop worrying. For me, I teeter-totter toward the future worry way more than I do the past regret at this point in my life. So I'm kind of always pulling myself back into the moment with, hey, this breath feels pretty good right now. And that works most days. Most days it works. So authors, amazing healers, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone.
Thank you, Laura.
Listeners, please remember to join us because we're going to have a live stream book celebration on December 17th at 10 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to gather with all of the Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing authors, and we'll be doing some fun giveaways that day. You're going to find that event on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page. And of course, if you're listening to this episode after the 17th, you can hop over to Amazon and grab your copy of the book. Maybe you are a wellness practitioner listening to this and you're ready to share your brave words in one of our upcoming best-selling book collaborations. Well, you can find us at bravehealer.com and cannot wait to talk to you about how you're going to share your words with the world. And lastly, I want everyone to remember that fear of not good enough, it's boring. Because what if that thing you're still a little afraid to share is exactly what someone needs to hear to change or even save their life? It's time to be brave, everyone. See you next time. Thanks, authors.